We are so excited to be able to present today's program to you. We began this last year, was the first time that we brought our awardees home, not just to honor them with awards, but also to get a chance to learn about how they use their Carolina experience to be successful in their careers and in their lives and in their communities. And so this is an opportunity for us to gather some of those kernels of wisdom and to hear some of those life stories. You'll notice we do have some video cameras in the middle of the room. We actually capture what we're going to be doing today. So that way, as we talk to the next generation of students, and we're recruiting them to be Gamecocks, they can see each of you and each of us who have walked this path ahead of them and how this university has literally transformed our lives. And so we're excited to be able to share this with each of you today. Thank you for joining us for it. As we go through the afternoon, what we'll do is we'll have some remarks from some of our nearest and dearest leaders, and then I'm going to invite in a few moments our awardees to join me up here, and we're just going to have a casual dialogue about what's great about being a Gamecock. Speaking of some of our nearest and dearest leaders, it's my pleasure to introduce to you the President of the Board of Governors representing 300,000 Gamecock alumni, a two-time degree awardee from the University of South Carolina, an undergraduate in Arts and Sciences, a Juris Doctorate from the brand spanking new School of Law. Notice you went to the law school before it was new, and I went to the journalism school before it was new, so we might want to redo. But please join me in a warm Gamecock welcome for Tommy Preston.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I always say that homecoming is one of the most exciting times of the year for any Gamecock because it gives you a chance to come back home and to reflect on your experience here at Carolina. But more importantly, it gives us an opportunity to see the great work of our alums all over the country. And one of the most exciting parts about being president of the Alumni Association is having the opportunity to travel the state and travel the country at times to interact with alumni. And I have to tell you that in each of those instances, no matter where you are, you find that this university is unique. The types of students that matriculate through our institution and graduate from this great university are doing amazing things all over the world and particularly all over the country. Today gives us an opportunity to recognize a few of those individuals. You will see today in this program and certainly tonight and over the course of the weekend the types of individuals who make up the alumni of our university. We have a former public servants and business leader who will be recognized this evening, an innovative educator who will be recognized, an amazing revolutionary doctor, a famed attorney, and as I learned today, a former classmate of President Obama, and an international superstar, we like to say, in Coach Frank Martin. These are the types of people who make our university, make our state, and make our country a better place. I was sharing with Ben Hall, one of our recipients this morning, my story of coming to Carolina. And I have to tell you, from where I grew up, never would have expected to be a student at USC. If you can believe this, I grew up in Clemson, South Carolina. And for any kid who grew up in Clemson, the thought of going to the University of South Carolina was just not an option. But a friend of mine was set on becoming a Gamecock, and he came down over a summer to spend a day on campus and asked me to come down with him. And I remember stepping foot on the horseshoe for the first time and seeing how amazing this university was. And as I mentioned to Ben this morning, being a person of deep faith, it hit me pretty hard that God was telling me that I needed to be at the University of South Carolina. So over the summer, I dropped out my plans to go to Georgetown University, out of all places. Never had an opportunity to go to orientation because of the lateness of making that decision. So the second time I stepped foot on this campus was to move in. And just the fear and anxiety of starting that college experience in a place that you didn't know. And to think all these years later, this place, it really is home. And that's what we want you guys to experience this weekend at homecoming, that this is an opportunity for you to come back home. We are family. The thing that ties us together is just the unique experience that we had here at this university, and the fact that there are 300,000 of us all over the world changing society on a daily basis. So I welcome you to this event today. Really excited about this weekend and having the opportunity to connect with each and every one of you. At this time, I have the honor of introducing our President and First Lady. And I share this often when I have a chance to introduce the two of them. I remember as an undergraduate student having lunch with Harris at an Asian restaurant here in Columbia, and I asked him, when are you going to be a university president? There was just something so unique about him. I don't think either of us realized that in a few short years he would be president, the 28th president of the University of South Carolina. And one of the great honors of my life will always be having the opportunity to spend that first day with you, Harris and Patricia, traveling all over the city of Columbia and meeting with community leaders, interacting with students and alums and folks that make our university a special place. And at that time, I don't think any of us knew the success that we would have under his leadership. In 10 years, we learned this fact, and Jack shared this fact with me recently. Out of the 300,000 alums of this university, living alums of this university, 100,000 of them had graduated under Harris's leadership as president. So I think we should give him a hand for the many contributions that he's made. And then for just a moment, just our First Lady, we got a 2-for-1 deal when Harris became president. And Patricia has not only been an amazing leader at this university, but a true champion for health and education across our state. And she's going to be sharing with you about some of the work that she's doing now, and a neat book that she's just published that I hope each of you will have an opportunity to purchase and peruse through over the course of the weekend. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming our President and First Lady, Harris and Patricia Pastides.
Well, thank you, Tommy. Actually, the university got a 3-for-1 deal when they got Patricia along with me. And like you, Tommy, the good Lord brought us to University of South Carolina, and being all-knowing as he is, he called us on a snowy February in Amherst, Massachusetts. And we accepted the invitation in 1998 to come and visit Carolina. George Terry, then Dean of Libraries, was chair of the search committee, and I said, "You mean in Chapel Hill?" And he said, "No, in Columbia, South Carolina." And I looked out the window as the snow and the sleet was falling, and I said, "Friday." And I came down here, and I always tell this story, but I set foot on the Horseshoe, and it was a beautiful February Friday, and students were playing Frisbee, and a Frisbee came and landed right near me. I think I was probably 42 years old at the time. Pretty good shape. I used to play basketball with the faculty at the gym at UMass. I picked up the Frisbee, sailed it about halfway down the Horseshoe, pretty good throw, and the young man caught it but started running to me. I thought I had violated a cardinal rule of USC, never touch a student's Frisbee. He ran almost all the way to me, and he said, "Thank you, sir," turned around and ran away. And I knew I was no longer in Massachusetts. Well, welcome home, everybody. What a great time it is, in fact, for Patricia and me, one of our busiest and happiest weekends of the entire calendar. On December 19th, we're going to celebrate a birthday. That will be Carolina's birthday. She will be 216 years old on December 19th, 217. We are looking for, by the way, a new brand. You know, we've had No Limits for a long time, and it's worked, but every decade or so, you've got to refresh the brand. And I was thinking the other day, you know how Bernie Sanders, it was Feel the Burn? Wondering how Feel the Feather sounds. Oh, I don't think you like it. I don't think you'll. It is better than feel the peck, though. I think it is better than that. I do love when you come back. Someone today said to me, "Where are the honeycombs?" I said, "Wow, you haven't been back in a long time." That's the Honors College over there. I think Luther and Raphael both spent some time in the honeycombs. Do you remember the name of the honeycomb dorms? 6 of them. You do. I know you do. Robin, you know any of them? Yeah? Yeah? Well, here they go. Baker, Burney, Douglas, Laborde, Moore, and Snowden. And so many things have changed since then. You know, this year alone, in the past 2 months, we inaugurated our new Student Health and Wellness Center. It's a fantastic need. If I could tell you how many students use that in a year, there are 40,000 visits to the health center. 175 a day. See, you got 3 for 1 here. She did that division very, very quickly. And then also the law school, which is a magnificent law school. And a lot of people, forgive me, any elected officials here? Good. Don't tweet that, please, that I said that. But why do you need a new law school? You know, it's really not about the building. It's just about what happens. It's about the books and the faculty, and that's true to a certain degree. But I could tell you how the law students now comport themselves and how the Darla Moore School of Business students comport themselves in these new buildings. They walk in there and say, "You did this for me? You really did this for me. Well, guess what I'm going to do for you? I'm going to work better than I ever did before and work harder than I ever did before," and many other good accomplishments on the way. We are growing, as Tommy said. There is a greater number for me and greater a sense of pride than the students who we graduate, who shake my hand and who go off to do great things in the Midlands, in the state, in the nation, and around the world. Coach, there are Gamecock clubs in Hong Kong and Singapore. You may not know that. The timing doesn't work, but we're on TV. They are watching the Gamecocks play basketball. By the way, the student interns in my office, I asked them to do a little vote. What should I be, or who should I be for Halloween coming up? Patricia is going to be...
No?
Yeah, I think you're going to be a women's basketball player. No
one in particular, just
I mean,
one.
she could have been a men's basketball player, but I don't think that would have really worked. And for me, I nixed the idea, but they chose Coach Martin. I said, "Really? How am I going to do that?" They said, "We're going to get you a big, boxy suit and you know, change your hair." I said, "Drop that idea. He may not like it." So I'm going to be a regular old pirate, but...
You are?
Yeah, I'm going to be a pirate.
Okay.
You may not know that, but we are going to light the Capstone Tower tonight. Has anybody ever seen the Capstone Tower being lit to glow in garnet? It's a beautiful thing to behold. I was landing one night on Gamecock 1. In fact, we were coming back from Greenville, where we had just beaten Duke. We had just beaten Duke, ladies and gentlemen. And we were flying back, and the tower was lit in garnet, and I said, "You know what? I'm going to walk down there. I'm just going to walk." It was midnight, 12:30 in the morning, and I saw the tower, and on the way back, I heard a commotion. First, I thought it was a train. That's one thing we haven't done at USC. We have not stopped the trains coming through at the worst time of day, right? Exactly at the worst time of day. But I heard a commotion, and sure enough, it was at the fountain in front of the TCL, the Thomas Cooper Library. The students were in the fountain. And then one of them saw me and invited me to jump in. I didn't think that was the right thing to do, but we had the best time then, and really the best times I ever have are when I interact with students. So we've got some great times ahead of us. Of course, we've got Vanderbilt coming in. We hope they spent all of this week doing their homework. I hope we did too, actually. I hope our football team did as well. But I want to tell you, Tommy mentioned the Cocky statue. That's about one of the few statues you could talk about as a college president today and not get in trouble. A 675-pound bronze bird. And Cocky is terrific. But I also want to tell you about Richard T. Greener. We are going to commemorate the first African-American professor at the University of South Carolina who was invited to come here during Reconstruction. He was the first African-American to receive a degree from Harvard University. And the trustees invited him to come to the University of South Carolina and teach philology and religion. And while he was here, he received a law degree. He was in Luther Batiste and I.S. Levy Johnson's class, I think. No, that's a... I think it was 1868. I'm not certain about that year. And he was beloved. He became the librarian as well. He was the librarian at the university library. And when the dark days of Reconstruction actually occurred, of course, the university was closed and they booted him out of town. And Raphael, he went to Chicago and had a distinguished career, first at the University of Chicago, then at Howard University, and then in the Foreign Service. And I could not be more proud, and I want to invite you back. That will be a homecoming, whether you are white or African American or male or female. If you're a Gamecock, I cannot wait to commemorate. And by the way, we have retrieved his 2 degrees. We have the original documents, his USC law degree and his Harvard degree. An anonymous donor helped out. Once the fellow who owned the attic that the Harvard diploma was found in knew that we wanted it, the price went up and kept going up. We kept going back, acting like we really didn't want it, except we would call them like every week to tell them we didn't really want it. And finally, we had an anonymous donor who paid too much. But you know, ladies and gentlemen, some things are not about what it costs. Some things have no real financial value. And so we are so proud. Likely that will be in January. We haven't identified the exact date yet. We want to find a great time when we will welcome Richard T. Greener back to the University of South Carolina. For now, we welcome you home to USC, and I think Patricia is going to say a few words about her brand new book, Living in the Heart of the Horseshoe.
You'll get it right one day. It's okay. It's called At Home in the Heart of the Horseshoe, honey. Well, that's okay. He needs me to keep him a little straight. Well, welcome everybody. I'm so happy to see you all, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be here with this new book, which I'm hoping is going to be one of the best sellers for the USC Press, because I think that maybe the 300,000 living alumni might all like to have a copy. And if that's the case, it will help keep our press afloat. You know, most of what they publish is very esoteric. It's very important. It's more scholarly, certainly, than what I write. But I think this book may have a universal appeal. And I'll tell you, someone asked me the other day, what was the inspiration for it? And in 2008, the first year that Harris was president, we were invited to the University of Virginia to have lunch with then President Castine and his wife, Betsy. And, you know, we were excited to go there because he'd been the president for 20 years. And we figured he was going to give us a lot of really good information about what we needed to do and just, you know, be a support to us. And at the end of the lunch, she gave me this beautiful book called Carr's Hill, which is what the name of their president's house is. And I was so jealous because it was this lovely coffee table book with beautiful pictures. And all we had was a little paper brochure that we used to give to people when they visited the house. It just had a few fun facts. So I thought, someday I'm going to work on that book. So I got the 2 food books out of my system because my real passion is to try to get people healthier. So that's why I wrote about the traditional Mediterranean diet and growing your own vegetables organically, because I really believe that we could curtail, doctor, probably 80% of the heart disease and heart disease-related issues in this country if we exercised every day, did not use tobacco products, and ate a traditional Mediterranean diet. So got those out of the way, and I'm still, teaching classes and enjoying that very much with the campus community. But I really wanted us to have a beautiful collectible book about our university president's house as well. And the house was built in 1854, but it was originally built for faculty housing, and it was a duplex. And it didn't become the president's house until 1952. But what that meant for me was that I had sort of a gift, because from 1952 until today, there have only been 8 presidents. So I was able to find somebody from each of the families who lived there and interview them about what they remembered going on campus and what their life was like in the house. So I heard everything, wonderful stories from them, like, panty raids. I didn't even know what panty raids were. I was sure that the men must have been breaking into the women's dorm and stealing their underwear. Well, oh no, the women were throwing them out the windows at the men, sometimes with their phone numbers written on them. I said, ladies, I am glad we've evolved since then. But panty raids, Vietnam War protests, where the Students for a Democratic Society had just broken into Osborne, had a sit-in, toppled over filing cabinets, and they were marching down the Horseshoe towards Sumter Street with the National Guard coming in the opposite direction with, tear gas, and there were Molotov cocktails being thrown at the house and things like that. So lots of, exciting times. I'm glad we're not living through those right at this particular moment, although one never knows, anything can happen. But, so stories about what they remembered going on campus, but also just stories about what their lives were like in the house. When Harris and I moved in, I really felt like we were moving into a museum because everything was so beautiful and sort of perfect. But when I asked other families who lived there with children, they had incredible stories about the animals that lived in the house with them. Not just dogs and cats and puppies being born in their beds, but blue jays who were rescued and lived in the house and landed in ladies' bouffant hairdos. And roosters that, the Jones kids bought their dad a rooster for Christmas one year, and the students in Legree complained about it, so they kept it indoors. And then the daughter brought home some chickens from the state fairgrounds to be just friends with the rooster, and they lived indoors. So you can imagine the kind of stories I heard, and they went everything from animal tales to ghost stories and everything in between. And then because the house is used so much for entertaining, I wanted everybody to just have a beautiful pictorial tour of the house and gardens and how it looks when it's set up for different affairs or holidays. And then we also offered some recipes and some floral arranging ideas that people can use in their own homes. So I think I think it came out really lovely. I hope you agree, and I hope you'll tell all your friends about it, because the proceeds come back to help support the Alumni Association and also our Education Foundation. So I thank you so much for having me. I hope you all enjoy that book, and I look forward to hearing from the panel. That's really why we're all here. Thank you.
How about another round of applause for our president and our first lady? Channing and Kevin on our team are going to come forward and help. Make sure I've got this thing on. It was easier when I was skinnier. Are going to come forward and help our awardees. I'll stand back here then until you get it on. Are going to come up. So I'm going to ask our awardees, if you all would, please make your way to the far stairs and up to the podium. Channing and Kevin have seats for you, and they're going to get you mic'd up. While they do that, one of President Pastide's comments really struck me, and that was how exciting it is to have so many new facilities on our campus. As a journalism undergraduate, and I think Tommy and I talk about this oftentimes, just to see the growth in our campus. One of the things I want to do is there are a group of people who made this facility come to life for our university and for her alumni. And I'd like to recognize them. You've had the chance to hear from Tommy from our Board of Governors. I'd like to ask the other members of our Board of Governors who are present, if you would please stand and let me introduce you. We have Robin John Wenzel. So Robin Roberts from Washington, D.C., John Wenzel from here in Richland County. John is our treasurer. Ron Lordo from up in the Lancaster, Rock Hill, Charlotte area. And thank you. We've got, and I'm just absolutely going crazy with this today. So, and I just went totally blank, Brad, and my apologies for that. So Brad Kovar from Edgefield, South Carolina. Brad and I had the chance to spend some time in Edgefield just the other day, and even had the chance to meet his mother, which was really fantastic. And finally, Forrest Alton, who many of you know, he and his wife is actually a professor and one of the campus leaders here on campus. So please give each of them a round of applause. And Brad, my apologies for going vapor lock there. So sorry about that. I'd like to introduce each of our awardees before I then move over to that side of the podium so that we can have a great dialogue. First of all, I'd like to welcome to the panel today Lee Thomas. Lee is the recipient of this year's Algernon Sidney Sullivan Award, named after the great philanthropist and community developer. Lee is a Master's of Education graduate from 1970. He had a 23-year career in public service and an 18-year career in the private sector. His service to our nation includes having been tapped by President Ronald Reagan to lead the Environmental Protection Agency. The Algernon Sidney Sullivan Award winner for 2017, Lee Thomas. Dr. Raphael Lee is the recipient of this year's Distinguished Alumni Award. He graduated with a Bachelor's of Science degree in Engineering from the College of Engineering in 1971. He is a plastic surgeon, a biomedical engineer, and has served on the faculty of Harvard University and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Dr. Lee currently directs the Center of Molecular Regeneration at the University of Chicago. Our 2017 Distinguished Alumnus Award, Dr. Raphael Lee. Benjamin Hall is the recipient of this year's Outstanding Black Alumni Award. He graduated with a bachelor's degree in religion from the College of Arts and Sciences in 1997 and is licensed to practice law before the United States Supreme Court, the federal bench, and Texas state courts. He has served as an adjunct professor of law at the Thurgood Marshall School of Law, the University of Houston School of Law, and the South Texas College of Law, and currently leads the nationally recognized Hall Law Firm in Houston, Texas. This year's Outstanding Black Alumnus Award, Benjamin Hall. Jennifer Wise is the recipient of the 2017 Outstanding Young Alumna Award. She graduated with a Bachelor's of Science degree in Mathematics from the College of Education in 2007 and obtained a Master's degree in Teaching from the College of Education in 2008 before beginning her teaching career at Hand Middle School. Jennifer currently serves with the Albert Einstein Distinguished Educator Fellowship in Washington after having been named South Carolina's Teacher of the Year in 2016. A warm welcome for this year's Outstanding Young Alumnus, Jennifer Wise. This year's honorary life member of My Carolina, given to someone who, while isn't a graduate of the university, brings pride and esprit de corps and excellence to our institution. Coach Frank Martin is a 2017 graduate of the NCAA Final Four. Let's give him a round of applause. Coach Martin is the first coach in USC history to achieve the NCAA Final Four. His coaching career includes 15 years at the high school level, where he fostered a passion for building the lives of young men, 5 years at K-State University, and most recently here at the University of South Carolina. Most importantly, Frank and his wife Anya have adopted Columbia as their home, and they are phenomenal community leaders for us, using their voice to help cheer not just our men's basketball program, but so many civic and community level causes. Please, a warm welcome for our honorary life member, Coach Frank Martin. All right, so I'm gonna see if I still have a mic, do I? How about now? There we go. So, what we'd like to do during today's discussion is really just spend a little bit of time understanding each of your stories. The best part about being a Gamecock is that while there are 300,000 of us, each story is very different. And each is born out of different experiences and different opportunities. And so I'd like to start by going down the road and just talk about what has it meant to you over the life of your career to have been associated with the University of South Carolina. And we'll start right here.
Well, South Carolina's meant a lot to my family over the years. As I grew up, I would hear my mother talking about her days at Carolina. 6 of her sisters went to Carolina. They all were teachers. My sister went to Carolina. As it turned out, both my children went to Carolina when I was living in Columbia. So Carolina's meant a lot to our family. To me, it meant an awful lot. I was working as a juvenile probation officer here in Richland County. I was married and had 2 little kids. Found out about a counseling program at USC. And the thing that really helped me take advantage of that counseling program was I was able to get a fellowship. And I went to school in the evenings and at night and got that master's degree in counseling. And I'd say over my years in government, and that was about 20, and now in business, and that's been about 25, I've had an opportunity to lead a lot of organizations. That counseling degree and my ability to communicate and maybe listen more than tell has been an asset to me throughout that entire career. And I learned that here at Carolina. I learned it in counseling. A profession that I didn't pursue, but a set of skills that I used that entire career.
Outstanding. Thank you. Raphael.
I don't think I'm on. Am I?
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I am.
I think
Good.
we're on the mic.
Well, certainly South Carolina has really been very influential in shaping, has had a very influential in shaping influence on my life. My family's been in medicine for generations, and I knew one thing: I didn't want to be a doctor. When I finished high school, and I started out in engineering, and through that started out in engineering here at the University of Chicago, at the University of South Carolina. And it was very, very, I had very good teachers, and I learned a lot, and it was a very inspiring experience. I can think back of some of the courses that I took that really shaped my own career, and still today really has helped me in decision-making processes, and also the various projects that I've attempted to accomplish over the years. Also the personal relationships that formed as an undergraduate were very important to me. Still today, lifelong friends that have made so much of a difference. And of course, towards the end of my undergraduate career in engineering, I took a course there was a new course in the college with the application of lasers to medicine and biology, and then I found myself in medicine. But I've never given up the engineering piece. I've continued to be actively involved in engineering. I'm a member of the National Academy of Engineering, in fact, and work very closely to bring really as a main thrust in my career today, bringing engineering pedagogy into the mainstream of medical education to help us get to the kinds of approaches that will lead to personalized medicine, as opposed to the kind of disease remediation processes that we have today. And in the process of this, in terms of where Carolina stood, about 15 or maybe 17 years, time passes, I met John Palms, who was a former president of the University of South Carolina. And at the time, I was working with the State Department and on a project to really understand what happened after Chernobyl in terms of the effect of radiation injury on the world's greatest nuclear catastrophe, a nuclear accident. And John, of course, is a nuclear engineer or nuclear physicist who played a very important role in the U.S. Senate's 3 Mile Island project. And then one thing led to another, and John Palms became very supportive of that. And we worked together to really help shape what became a World Health Organization project to better understand the remediation effects that took place right after Chernobyl that saved so many lives. And we're still in the process of finishing that work. So Carolina's been there throughout my career and has had many, many impacts. So I don't think it could have been more significant than it has. And I'm grateful for that.
Let me tell you, give you some context. I've been away from the campus 40 years. I graduated in 1977. That's many years before a lot of you were born. I'm sure everybody at my table. I tell you that because it was a fairly turbulent time in Columbia, South Carolina. It was 3 years after real structural integration in this city. And this university opened its doors to me. I remember being told when I was going through high school that I could not go to college and that I just was not college material. I was told that by a counselor. And they told me, hey, you should be a bricklayer or a barber. This was in 1974, 1975, 1976. Some of you have these kind of curious looks on your face, but yes, that's the reality that I was facing. And so after I graduated from high school, I had no money to go to college. I believed that that prophecy was going to come true in my life. And I came to the University of South Carolina, and the counselor said, you have great grades. We want you to have an excellent SAT score. We're going to give you a Pell Grant for $213 to pay for your tuition. And that's how I entered the University of South Carolina. That beginning has really set the course of my life. So for a student who could not do anything but be a barber or a bricklayer, I graduated from this great institution in 1977. It prepared me to go to Duke and get a master's degree with honors. It prepared me to go to Duke Graduate School and get a PhD with high honors. It prepared me to go to Harvard Law School and graduate with honors. I'm doing pretty well for a bricklayer. And I'm going to conclude this in just a second, but I would be remiss if I did not recognize the leadership of a great president of this university. Harris Bastides has taken this university to heights that I could never have imagined, and I am so proud to say I graduated from University of South Carolina, whose president is Harris Bastides. Thank you so much, Harris. Unless IS gets jealous over here, IS, I tell people too, I graduated from your university as well. I hope I have an opportunity to share a few more stories with you. I regret the passing of a number of my professors as I walked the horseshoe. I can remember a lot of great things they taught me. I hope to be able to share that with you a little bit later.
I am originally from Gaffney, South Carolina, and have always been talkative and chatty and a lover of math. And so as I found myself in my 11th grade calculus class and I looked up at my teacher, I thought, that is what I have to do. She gets to talk about math all day long. And so I just knew that that was the vision and it was going to be the best thing. And so I was so thankful to the university. I was able to participate in the Teaching Fellows program and came here on a cloud because it was everything that I wanted to be. As Tommy said earlier, there is something special about being a Gamecock, and everyone knows it. And just being able to be here, I was very involved in student government So from student senate and initiatives to having the pleasure to be the student body treasurer, we were able to go to Washington and speak on behalf of students' interests in higher education. We got to go around as Cocky's Reading Express and read books with at our elementary schools and just have a great time. And you started to see what it means to be able to give back to a great state and university that has poured so much into you as well. And so I consider it a blessing. Hand Middle School, where I teach, is just a mile and a half down the road. And so having that ability to come back and still work with the College of Education and to host their students in my classroom, I just get that wave of excitement, because every day it is exciting to be a Gamecock. And I'll tell you, as we drove here today, one of my big passions when I was a student here was for us to be able to use the Carolina card off campus. And as we drove here today and passed the Smash Burger on Divine and it said, "We welcome Carolina Cash," I was like, yes! Because the thing is, you might not always be there for the product, but you get to be part of the process. Yes. And that's one of the huge things that I have gotten from the university.
That's an excellent statement.
Awesome. Coach Martin.
Well, my days studying here at the University of South Carolina, I was actually in charge of selling the panties with the phone numbers to the male students. Oh, no. I every time I get around an alum, whether they're still connected to campus on a daily basis, whether they live in town, or they're visiting for the first time in a long time, every single story that we just heard is what continues to reinforce to me how lucky I am of where I work at. I gotta say this, and involves sports, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say this, Ray would get mad at me. How about Shelly Smith and our women's soccer team?
Back to back.
But you know, when Anya and I were going through this decision 5 years ago as to whether to take the offer that Dr. Pastides and Patricia had made to us or stay where we were at, because in this business of athletics, you're lucky if you can go to one place and stay. You usually move around. So we've been on different campuses other than the ones that we attended. By the way, Anya is a graduate of UMass Amherst, while Dr. Pastides was a leading figure on that campus. So talking about God putting you in front of the right people, how about that one? But it's the one thing I kept looking back at, because I started kind of reviewing the folks on campus. The people that were in athletic leadership positions, and Dr. Pastides, they came here from other places and they stayed. And I'm sitting there saying, there's Hall of Fame coaches that came there and stayed. If it's good enough for them, it's gotta be a great, great place.
It is.
And I know we made that decision, and Anya and I couldn't be happier the decision we made 5 years ago. We couldn't be happier that Dr. Pastides, Ray Tanner, the belief they have in us to keep us around here, because in this crazy business that we're in, you never know which way the wind blows sometimes. And I can tell you one of the most powerful things that I've ever been a part of in anything I've done was being on the court the night we beat the University of Florida at Madison Square Garden and seeing Gamecocks that I knew, Gamecocks that I never met, Gamecocks older than me, Gamecocks my age, Gamecocks that were in college. All my family, Anya's family, our children, Anya, Darius Rucker apologizing for how many tears of joy we all shared for a common theme, and that being this university that Gamecocks care for in such incredible ways. And so we're ecstatic that you're doing this for me, and that we're a part of such a wonderful place.
Thank you.
Good deal, Coach.
Whether it's recruiting athletes or recruiting students, each of us have an opportunity in our own communities to talk to students and prospective students about why come to Carolina. So based on each of your experiences, whether it's going into a student athlete's home, whether it's even seeing a middle schooler at Hand Middle School, what would you say to someone who's making a college decision they're choosing to continue their education career, what would you tell them that would help them choose to be part of our family at the University of South Carolina? And I'll just open it up. So we'll do this as an unstructured conversation. Whoever wants to jump in first, please do so.
You want me to do that since I do that for a living? Like in my 5 years, the growth has been incredible. The law school building, the business, Darla Moore School of Business is just second to none. The apartments our players live at, the Dodie Anderson athletic academic building, the building we're in right now. The growth that has taken place in my 5 years here has been incredible. But when I sit down and I visit with folks and we're lucky enough to get them and their families on campus, what I tell them, because at the end of the day, it's what life is about, wait till you get touched by the people in these buildings. And that's the part that's so powerful, that when we get kids that give us a chance and believe in us, and then they want to sign up for what we're trying to do in basketball, they get touched. Sindarius Thornwell, let's use him as an example. He came here, and now he is an unbelievable representative of this university, and the way he expresses himself, the way he speaks, the whole thing. And that's the power of the people that work on this campus. And to me, that is the greatest asset we have. I get it now. 5 years ago, I didn't know why so many coaches that were so good came and stayed. I understand now because of the people that are in place. The people's what makes this as powerful as it is. And anytime we get our guys around the people, they become powerful. And that's our greatest gift, is to make others more powerful.
Outstanding.
I have to echo the coach's comment there. In fact, this morning we went to breakfast with Tommy and Chris Myers, and got in the elevator, and we were going upstairs, and people were speaking on the elevator. I was surprised. I'm like, y'all speak in the elevators here? And I just forgotten. And so the point is this: you have brilliant people here at the University of South Carolina, and they're nice. I've been to schools where I've had brilliant people who have been not nice. I am proudest when I walk down the streets of Houston, Texas, or any city, and have on a USC jersey. I'll have on a shirt, I'll have on a sweatsuit. It always has USC. I don't wear the other alma mater sweatsuits, but I do that. And every time I meet another alum, they come up very friendly and greet you. If you want a great school with brilliant people, a great reputation, and great professors, the University of South Carolina is pick number one.
Well, I'd like to comment that I think the most important thing about going to college is finding a place that will also invest in you. And the leadership of this university has never put students as second. It's always been the first priority. And President Pastides is a complete example of that. And that would be the first thing I would say to a student coming here, that they could find options, they could find the support they need to make the right decisions. And like in my case, you know, you find the flexibility to pursue the things that you want to do. I remember as a senior student here, somehow I was chosen to represent the university in a national leadership retreat, where the seniors were brought together from various parts of the country to do something they don't do today. It was basically one of these stress experiments, but it was all about, you know, bringing people together to teach them about human behavior and leadership skills. And this was something that came to me just by being involved. And I think that this is a shining example of what the university can offer. And that experience has helped me throughout my entire life.
You know, I just have to emphasize a couple of things that was said as well, and that is, one, I do totally agree about people. South Carolina, as a South Carolinian, the family's been in this state for generations. It's a special place, and It's the friendliness, it's the familyness, if you will, and you feel that at the university. Additionally, it's a university that's got so much strength in so many places. So if you're talking to a student, and a student has a passion in a particular area or an interest in a particular area, more than likely this university is strong in that area. So really finding their place in this university may well be easy in terms of the passion they've got. And there is support throughout the university as a family would support. And I think those are the things that are so important to a student.
Outstanding. Jennifer, I'd like to ask, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
So as one of our most recent graduates, one of the things that we seek to do as alums, so we've talked a little bit about our own stories and how to bring students to the university. Then the most important job is to help them launch successfully. So what would you say to today's student? What advice would you give a student who might be in this room today or who might watch this tape? What things did you do as a student that you think added to your classroom experience and helped you achieve the success that you have in your career?
I think the relationships that you've continually heard is the key piece to that. I'll admit, being from a smaller town, I had some anxiety coming to such a large university with what happens when I get lost. And that was a fear that I didn't need to have, because at the University of South Carolina, you are not just a name on a roll. Relationships are cultivated, people care. They reach out to you, they know what's going on in your lives when you're in the classroom, and then when you graduate. They attend your weddings and celebrate the parts of life with you. You are living life with other members of this campus. And I think that that's powerful, because when you're here, it's that encouragement. There's a level of power, like I can do this. And I think the university is very empowering. And then as we go off into our careers, continuing those relationships. Honestly, I think social media can kind of take that from us a little bit, and they kind of does the work for us. But continuing to really nurture those relationships, going and getting lunch or coffee with your fellow alum or your professors, it really develops this sweet and pure bond that you have, where you know that you are fully supported in any of your ventures. And I am thankful that the university has been there for me in that way every step.
Thank you. Others, what advice can we give today's students?
I don't want my silence to mean I have no ideas, okay? I was just trying to give some space to others. But let me say, my experience was this. Have a whole life while you're at this campus. Study hard. Play occasionally. Engage the world. There's a big world out there. It's not waiting. It's okay to get off campus every once in a while and start relationships there. I started a relationship, William Smith, who was here, my cousins who are here. I would get off campus, mop a church for $25 a month. But the relationships that were developed there tied into my campus experience. And so I say to you, while you're developing these wonderful relationships like classmates.com, that's high school folk, but generally if we can go to usc.com, you can get these connections, but also develop relationships outside of campus, because they sometimes turn into business opportunities for you, which they have in my case. Great lawyers like I.S. Levy, Luther Batiste. Those are great lawyers that you can already establish relationships with. Tommy, thanks so much. It's my pleasure to meet you today, but we're going to be doing some business together. Get out. There's a great world out there, but do study hard, play a little, but engage the world while you're here as well.
So as we think about both students and alums, and part of our opportunity is to show a new university to folks who may not have been back in a number of years, to see a #1 ranked honors college where Honeycombs used to be. I don't think those two facilities quite equate. How do we talk to alums who are probably yearning for that connection but don't realize it yet? How do we reach out? What things can we do? What have touched your lives? How do we help them recognize how important it is to be able to pay forward to today's students, to be able to pay forward to today's institution? I loved what you said about what was poured into us as Gamecocks. How do we pour that back into others who are looking for that piece that they might have walked away from not knowing its value?
I'll take a shot at that one because I feel like I fall into that category as an alum who lost connection with this university for a long time. Had an opportunity with John Palms, had an opportunity with the School of Environmental Sciences to be brought back and asked to provide some input. Then through Chris Myers, I must tell you, she absolutely ropes you in, pulls you in, talks about this university and gives you all kinds of opportunity at the university. The opportunities I ended up with working back with the Department of Education and where I could provide some help there with Tom McNally and what's going on at the Caroliniana Library. I mean, it was exciting to find out not only what was going on, but where I had an opportunity to contribute, and I've spread that word. I've got other members of my family that are now excited about opportunities to do things with the university, and so I think it's getting connected yourself. And these folks were the ones who helped us get connected, my wife Dorothy and I, and we're now spreading the word about where the opportunities are.
Thank you.
I have to say that you just ask for something, as opposed to having us a member of something. Ask for something. You'll be surprised how many of us are ready to give something back, but we've never been asked. And Chris Myers, you can stop, because Chris has been... But, you know, we get in our comfortable positions and we're working and we're making money and so on. We just need someone to show up and ask. Or not even show up, just call us and ask. And I tell you, we're ready to help. Thank you, Chris, for reaching out. Thank you, Harris, for reaching. Because had you not, I would have just gone on with my life and not known.
Frank, from a coaching standpoint, you talk about being on the floor at Madison Square Garden. Talk a little bit about how athletics is not just a front door, but how also as alumni we can support the recruitment of great student athletes and help them be successful, not just on the court or on the field, but be successful in life. What things can we do to help the work that you do?
Yeah, it's one of the unfortunate things that we've gotten to a society, specifically with collegiate athletics right now, is we make it about the scoreboard a little bit too much. And truth be told, in reality, I'm a mathematics teacher myself. We've lost sight of the educational part, the four-year experience. I say this all the time, we're the only billion-dollar industry that is led by 18-year-olds. And we start forgetting that we were all 18 once upon a time. We need to, as from the coaching side of it, continue to engage alums and reconnect them with this great university and make them understand of all the good that our athletes are doing off the court, not just on the fields and the courts, and figure out a way to create mentorship programs. So when their athletic career's over, which for the most of them ends the last day they play their college game, there's opportunities to step into life and continue to succeed. Continue to be in a competitive world where they can find success. And that is the biggest challenge in today's day and age, in my eyes, because we've created at the grassroots level such a vision of professionalism that day's coming. And the impact that everyone up here has spoken about, that Carolina has made in their life, their experience on this campus, to allow them to find success, to reconnect these great alums with our university and create ways that we can have mentorship programs. So when all our athletes are done, we talk a lot about how much they do and how little they're getting. I think you ask any athlete, their life is a lot better now than the athletes of 25 years ago at the collegiate level. I'm not saying that's enough. We got to continue to figure out ways to do that. But the most powerful thing that we can do is create mentorship programs. So when their playing days are over, successful alumni that lead businesses, lead organizations, lead communities, lead our country, can then figure out a way to embrace somebody that they might have understood better during their athletic days because of the front porch syndrome, to help them move forward in life and continue to make this a better place, better university.
Thank you.
Well, I've served on the board of a couple of other universities and several other university programs, and engaging the alumni is always one of the big topics of discussion. And of course, I think of course, we train great people and they get busy in their lives, and you know, how to get them to spend more time with the university is really a big challenge. But the outreach effort, even, you know, just beginning, making it easy for people to participate and to keep the alumni informed. And of course, with the great new programs that have developed here, and you know, really makes alumni proud and they want to contribute. So it really begins there. And I think that South Carolina has done that. I would suspect that your job in doing this is getting easier all the time.
It's a great product. What I'd like to do is give you a moment to kind of form your thoughts. The clock's not always our friend when we have these great conversations, but we're going to continue them for the rest of the day today and some celebrations tomorrow during football. But what I'd like to do is for you to think about what haven't I asked? What story, what piece of advice, what could you tell someone who might download this a little bit later on during the week, who might spend some time as a student or as an alumnus? What piece of advice might you leave, particularly our audience who's going to be not only joining us live streaming right now, but will be pulling down some of this content in the weeks ahead, that would be motivational to them? What might you say that I haven't asked, I guess, is the bottom line there. And we can either go in order, or if folks already have an answer, raise your hand and we'll go from there. Go ahead, Jenna.
I would say one of the greatest gifts that I've gotten from the university is a transformation of perspective. I am type A, to say the least, and so as I think about everything that could happen, it is my natural inclination to be a what if person, and the university helped me transform that to an if-then perspective, that I don't have to have every single answer, but I know how to connect. I know how to admit that I might not have every single answer, that if I feel like I'm the smartest person in the room, I need to find another room, that there is such a vast array of knowledge around us, and I want to reach out. I want to learn, and this university has empowered me and gifted me in that way to be able to do that. I think it's fully captured in a quote by Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He said, "We cannot always prepare the future for our youth, but we can prepare our youth for the future," and that is exactly what the University of South Carolina is doing.
That's a good one. I like that a lot. Wow. Well, I'll say something. First of all, I want to thank my wife for being here from Houston, Texas. I fell in love with her on this campus. So you can imagine this campus has a special place in my heart. All right. One thing that Don Jones taught me in the religious studies department was that the brain or the mind is not the Swiss Army knife of the universe. It is not. And I kept thinking about that. What does this mean? The mind is not the Swiss Army knife of the universe. And only after I left campus, I realized he was saying that there are such great things out there that we need to understand and grasp, and that the present formation of the mind is perhaps not sufficient to grasp and handle it all. I want to tell you, if you like thinking that way, this is a great institution. I recommend the Religious Studies Department. No one paid me to say that. But what it taught me was that there is the ability of the human spirit to dream beyond its capabilities. That the mind in its present formation is not the Swiss Army knife of the universe. that it has more things, more capabilities, and more abilities that it must attain in order to understand this wonderful thing that we call life. If you're of that mindset, the Religious Studies Department at the University of South Carolina wants you.
Fantastic.
I can tell you as an outsider that had no ties to the state, the university, the day I stepped foot here, and given the fact that I live in a little bit of an artificial world of athletics, because the way it's viewed and what really matters to the majority of the people from the outside that look in, what's made this place special from first day here was, for me, it's another gym at the beginning, another recruiting trip with a different t-shirt on. For my family, it had to be real. And the welcoming of everyone that's associated with this university, IS, who was sitting over here, how comfortable they made my best friend feel, my wife, Anya, from day one. How welcome we've been received by everyone at this university has allowed me then to not be worried about the artificial lens that people use to view sports, but actually feel like we are a part of this, and this is real, and this has become an extended part of our family. And to that I say, don't ever change. Don't ever allow any phoniness into the realness that Carolina is all about.
Fantastic. Dr. Lee, and then we'll finish with Lee Thomas.
Well, I tell everyone who asked me for advice, recently graduated from a college, university, that don't be afraid to take some risks. That you'll never be, there's never a better time when you're young and energetic to take risk. If you fail, you can get up and start again. It's very difficult later on in life. And so we are about, in my opinion, to embark upon a change in society, become far more global, and the technologies that influence our day-to-day living will revolutionize how we live. And so it's never been a more exciting time, I think, and there are so many opportunities that will exist in the near future for college graduates that, it's really, it's just about embracing and being comfortable with change and being willing to take that risk. So that's my advice. Get a good education, go out and follow your heart, take some chances, and you'll be successful.
Lee, would you close this part out?
You know, if I'm giving advice to students as they're coming out of the university, I think back on a couple of pieces of advice I got. One was from my father, who told me from an early age, as I would talk to him about what I was going to do and what kind of jobs I'd get. He said, son, if you do a good job, you'll get a good job. And in fact, he turned out to be absolutely right. Work hard at what you're doing. Do the best you can. Always consider your job performance to be excellent. And in fact, it'll be recognized and you'll have an opportunity. Take some risk. When those opportunities come along, they may not be so comfortable, but they're opportunities. Take those risks. And I think another piece of advice I got was from my grandfather. And he said, son, half the world doesn't know how the other half lives. And he was so right. And I found that out when I was a probation officer here in Columbia. I'd grown up in a little town of Ridgeway, 25 miles away. I didn't know how half the world lived until I started working as a probation officer. And it taught me a lot about people. And it taught me that I needed to treat everybody with dignity and respect and never forget where I came from, and that everybody has an opportunity in this world if you give it to them. And in fact, I'd say for anybody coming out of the university, going into the working world, if they think about those two pieces of advice, maybe they'd do the same thing I did, which is succeed.
Fantastic. Let's give a round of applause for our awardees. I hope you get a sense of the spirit of homecoming. I hope you get a sense of the spirit of what makes this institution that we call our alma mater so very, very special through the lives and through the stories of our honorees today. DePaul Elliottambi, who is the Secretary of the Board of Governors, and a great review committee with great staff support, went through a record number of alumni award nominations this year, the most we've ever received. I think you can see in the lives of the women and men seated before you today, our bench strength coach at the University of South Carolina, our bench strength for life is phenomenal. And there is no better place and no better leadership with whom we can entrust the lives of the next generation. We're going to have a lot of fun over the next several days. Our awardees, we're going to ask you to very quickly come upstairs with us. We have a few more sound bites we want to grab. Okay. We'll see each of you later this evening. To our audience, we hope that you're taking advantage of all the things happening on campus at each of our colleges. We'll remind you that later tonight, down in Foundation Square, beginning at 7 o'clock, a street party, a band party, a chance to celebrate Gamecock Nation 3 hours before kickoff tomorrow at Williams-Brice Stadium. We'll get all of Gamecock Nation ready for a homecoming football game. We'll have the chance on the field to honor our awardees, and a lot of special things will be happening during tomorrow's football game. Thank you for being with us. God bless each of you, and thank you for all you do for our university.